Okay, so I'm seeing Denzel Washington. He said his mother saved him from drugs and crime. I'm seeing I guess he talked a lot about drugs and alcohol after this movie came out, and also I guess he was in a couple other movies that had to do with drugs that I have not seen. Have any of you seen American Gangster?
No.
Cool, me neither. So we can't really talk about that. Okay. Oh, I guess okay. So, well, in that movie, he portrayed a drug lord. So, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna talk about.
Let's see.
So hard.
Who else was big in that movie? It's like Don Cheadle.
Oh yeah.
Another actor I recognized, to be honest.
Who was the cocaine dealer? What was his name?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
recognized him, but he was like barely in it. I feel like.
Cast of Flight. John Goodman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really funny. Okay, so I'm Olivia.
I'm Abby.
I'm Alex.
I'm Katie.
All right, so this week we watched Flight, and we're focusing on Star Image. So I guess some main characters were Denzel Washington, Don Cheadle, John Goodman, Bruce Greenwood. Those are some pretty big actors. So at least that I recognized when I, first started it. Tamara Tooney, do any of you watch Law and Order SVU?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, isn't she the
Yes, that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh my god.
She's like the newest autopsy reporter or something. Okay, so does anybody have anywhere to start that they would like to start talking about Star Image?
I guess I can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the whole purpose of today is to talk about Star Image. And I guess the whole purpose of the film Flight is about Denzel Washington trying to overcome his star image and to get help and to realize that he has a problem, but the entire time he is fighting with himself, telling himself that nothing is wrong, and he's fighting his pride. And finally, at the end of the movie, he realizes that he does need help and that he goes to jail. But I just thought it was interesting that the whole movie is about star image, and then we're talking about the star image of Denzel Washington and playing such a complex character like this.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for Flight, and apparently just as an overview of what the movie's about, it was supposed to be based on a crash that actually resulted in everyone dying, which I think is really interesting because the whole point of this plot was that they could have easily all died, but because of this man who is intoxicated, he saved, what was it? There was 102 people on the plane and 96 survived, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I similarly, I was gonna kind of say, so what I was thinking at first was that all the movies I've seen Denzel in were mostly him as the hero, or at least I feel, I don't know why I'm getting that, I have no movies off the top of my head where I'm, let's see, I'm sure I would love to give you just a good one, The Equalizer. He's a badass, and let's see, Glory, Inside Man, which we saw, things like that. I thought it was interesting to portray him as this hero that still has everybody sees him as a hero at first, and then he has this really dark side behind him. So you see him in the beginning, like the opening shot is him, like he's kind of like overweight. He's, you know, obviously totally zoinked on like any who knows what drugs, and then he does cocaine to get him through the day. And like seeing that, I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of sick. Like he's kind of a badass. But then I see him get on a plane. He's the pilot, and I'm, you know, it's terrifying. And I think it's just interesting that he's like he ends up saving everybody and pulls off this insane flipping the plane upside down in order to save the majority of people. I think only 6 died. I think that was the number. But still, like, he has this horrible background and these inner demons, like you were saying, like that he has to fight. And I don't know if that, maybe Star Image in that sense is like they are using Denzel because he usually plays heroes, and maybe it was interesting to show him as a hero with like a dark side. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that, but
Yeah, and I think like what you and Abby were saying, this film kind of like serves as an allegory for like Star Image in real life, because like especially in like the latter half of the movie, their whole thing, like his lawyer team and everything, they're like they just want him to look good publicly. They're like, okay, don't go to liquor stores, like, and they're, yeah, obviously don't go out in public drunk. Um, so like their main concern, like everyone wants him to get help, but like their main concern is just outwardly it looking like he has everything together. And I think that's like an interesting comparison to like how Hollywood is, where it's like the stars have like an image they need to keep up. So like more importantly than like how the star's personal life is going, it's important to like project that their personal life's like going well and everything's great.
okay, like similarly, like when we see stars and stuff, like just in magazines and things like that, usually when they become, who plays Iron Man? Why am I forgetting the actor's name?
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. He was like a major alcoholic. I think he might have been a drug addict. And that was like a big deal just in magazines and like just in pop culture. Like people were talking about that a lot when he was in rehab. Um and I think like it was kind of the same thing for him being a pilot. Like he's supposed to look like this perfect person, like the way we would look at famous people and stars. But he's not, and he is actually an addict that has like a lot of issues and a lot of past problems he has to deal with. um I don't know, maybe that's why they chose him also. I don't know, it's interesting.
What did you guys think about the scene with the cancer patient? Because to me, it like almost felt like it was just randomly placed in there because you only see him once in the entire film. But I just wanted to like say something about how like his like I guess appearance is. So you when you look at him, you assume like that he's just sad, he is sickly, he's going through it. But in reality, he is like the most put together person in the entire film. Yes, he does like have his inner demons, but he has accepted them at this point and he is like learning to like live with himself, I guess. And so I just wanted to know like your opinion on why they decided to put the cancer patient in there.
I think it's interesting that you say that because I also thought, I don't know, sometimes when a character shows up on a screen, you just sort of get the sense in how he's or how they are kind of like just filmed, just kind of placed within the screen, and you get a sense of whether they're going to be an important character or not. I, for some reason, thought that he was going to show up again at some point just to have like some sort of significance. But it is true, he is like the most put together because he has, it's like he's the only one who has everything figured out because he's forced to face this head on. The others are kind of sidetracked and sort of are just kind of taking these detours like past, like they're having like near death experiences, all of them, and it's just making them more confused. Well, this guy knows exactly what's going to happen to him. And just another little thing to add, I think this isn't a reliable source. I really don't think it is. But apparently Denzel Washington like does drink and smoke a lot of weed, and I think he was addicted to cocaine. But another source said that he doesn't like to do anything. He doesn't like to drink at all, doesn't like to smoke at all while he's filming a movie because it greatly affects him, completely the opposite of his character. He's like high functioning in that movie.
I think one thing with the cancer patient is it's like he kind of helps give like Nicole mainly, I guess, some perspective, because I think like in the next scenes we kind of see her like cleaning up her act the whole time, and she starts going to like AA and everything and getting better. So I think it's kind of like she sees this guy that like he's definitely going to die pretty much, like he can't avoid his death, but she still has time to like, you know, clean up, and then she can hopefully live like a long normal life. So she's like, that's like kind of just the catalyst for her to start getting better.
Yeah, I it's funny because I was kind of like annoyed with all this like Jesus shit. I was like, okay, so I guess this is going to be a movie about God and like religion, because he came in and I was like, this is kind of random, and he was talking about how God has a plan and like he's going to decide what happens. And then if they hit a church, like that was kind of like a big, you know, image. And then um oh, his co-pilot was like really religious also. Him and his wife, I think, because they prayed together, like they made him pray with them. And I was kind of like annoyed with that, but that makes a lot of sense. I think that it kind of changes my mind a bit. It was probably important to be put there just because I don't know. It seemed like he was probably just as annoyed. He like him hearing all these things about God having to do with your life, and like I don't know, maybe I don't know. I kind of don't know where I was going with that, but maybe like his annoyance with it was just supposed to represent like other people or something like that. I don't know, but maybe you guys have different opinions. I don't know.
You know, I noticed that there was like a really strong religion motif kind of throughout the movie, and it confused me because like Denzel Washington never like interacts with it beyond like just kind of getting confused by it. But like it never goes anywhere. Like he never like rejects it or accepts it fully. It just kind of is there throughout the whole time, and I honestly don't really get why.
Yeah, I guess it could be argued that maybe there were like religious metaphors or something in there, but like I personally didn't understand it if there were any metaphors, like they went over my head. And so I think they were there just to I don't know, just to be symbols, I guess.
I think it was more about, I agree with that. I feel like they were less about metaphors and more like religious, like directly related to religion. I think it was more related to how sometimes you just have absolutely no control of what's going to happen. Because, you know, they kept referring to, I forgot what it was. The lawyer kept referring to how he made one of the possible, forgetting
An
all
act of
the
God.
thing, yeah, as an act of God. And I didn't even know you could do that. Like, I don't know, maybe I think it means more of like, I mean, I assume it means just like you can't control what happens, but the way it's phrased, I think is so interesting that it's like put that way. I think that's how they meant it throughout the film. It's like you just kind of you don't have control of certain things, like a plane crash, but you do have control. Well, you can take control of trying to cure a problem that you may have. Doesn't mean you can cure it, but it means you can try. I don't know if that is like making sense, but I'm trying.
I thought it was particularly interesting that like he had the option to um if he just said that, yeah, the girl um probably drank those vodka bottles, like he would have been fine. He could have flown again, he could have been a pilot in the next year, like he could have done whatever he wanted. He could have continued drinking if he really wanted to. And I thought that like was a cool part and like a little cheesy because like of course he's gonna take the correct way to go. Um, but I thought it was like a little, I don't know, maybe that had something to do with the religious piece, like kind of repenting a little bit by choosing to go to jail and choosing to uh, get rid of everything he enjoys, like, and going through rehab, which is a horribly, like, it's a very, you know, difficult thing, and he knew that. So maybe that had to do with the religious part as well. I don't know.
When he puts that vodka bottle on top of the fridge and then you just hear that little clink of him grabbing it, did that like hurt anybody else? Because I was so upset when that happened. I
Chills.
was
I got
like,
chills.
you were so close.
I really thought that he wasn't gonna grab it.
Me too. I was so disappointed in him. I was like, this close. I mean, it's not an easy thing. You really don't have the same kind of control as you would for other things, but I was just the sound and like, ugh, I was so upset. Why would they
Yeah.
leave the door open too? Like, why would they do that?
Oh no.
It could be another religious piece in that, like, oh, like maybe God left the door open for a reason or some, you know, something like that. But I thought that was really like that was such a cool part. Just the way the sound and everything was really cool, and it also just showed like you can't really when you're that deep and that addicted, like you can't quit on your own. There, it's not that easy. And he was sober for 8 days, but or 9 or something like that because he was at the guy's house. But I'm sure he drank while he was there. In some way, I'm sure he found a way. Usually, like getting off of alcohol is one of the most difficult, and like it affects your body physically the worst. One of the worst, like drugs that affects your body, whatever. But I thought so. He probably drank there too, and it kind of just shows like he really needed to, in the end, just drop everything and send himself off to prison to actually stop.
Did anyone else like feel physically sick during the plane crash scene? Because like I did. I have a very bad fear of planes and just ugh. And I like okay, so I went home on a plane like cuz I live in California and I was not going to watch this movie before I went home. I made sure that I watched the movie after I went home because I would have just been like terrified. uh,
Definitely. I definitely felt sick. That's a good thing that you didn't watch it. That's some like a mistake I would have made. I would have like watched it on the plane, so that was smart. But yeah, I thought it was maybe like not only just how scary it was, but like the shaky cam, like always that shit always makes me sick, and it was a really cool scene.
Yeah,
And
it really hurt. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you know, it's like the movie as a whole, it was good, but it was like hard to watch, and I think that's on purpose. But like, and I think like the plane crash in itself is kind of a good like comparison because like this whole time you're watching this guy who's like clearly struggling with alcoholism, but he's like not getting help with it, and it's like it's the same feeling of helplessness almost as the plane crash itself. So like this, like I had to pause the movie a couple times when like painful things happened. Like right after that hotel scene where he drank a bunch, and then like the lawyers were like going into his room to check up on him so I could go get breakfast. I like had to pause the movie there and like force myself to keep watching because I was like, I don't want to see what's about to happen here. So like, I don't know, the movie just did a good job of creating that feeling.
Yeah, I don't have a fear of planes, like being on a plane. I do get nervous on planes, but I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just because I live so close to the Freedom Tower, but I'm like scared of seeing a plane crash. Like that's my biggest fear ever. Every time you know, I would hear a plane for the longest time too. Um, like I wouldn't leave the house actually, it was really bad, but every time I would hear a plane, I would get so scared and I would have to like actually hide because I was like, if a plane was like really close, oh my God, because it's so possible that it can happen. It's actually less likely for a plane to crash than like for your car to crash, but no one remembers that because you don't have the same kind of control of it as you do in a car.
Like, yeah, and that like again ties into addiction. Like you feel like you're so out of control in a plane, even though like theoretically you have more control. I guess I guess I don't really know how to like tie that in, but just like what you were saying, like it's less likely for you to crash in a plane, even though like it seems more dangerous than it actually is.
I wanted to talk a little bit about I want to use her actual name, but Nicole's character, the redhead, Kelly Riley is who plays her. But I thought she was interesting because I thought at first when I was watching it, I thought it was really random to have her storyline like side by side with his. I thought that was just super weird. But I wanted to just hear your opinions on that because like I kind of decided that it was probably just to compare like a woman who had to like do sex work and like anything she could to get drugs before, while he was a pilot and still doing the exact same amount of drugs as her, and still being successful and having money. It was kind of like cool and interesting to show them side by side, because he's like just as problematic, um, and then him trying to help her by like letting her in his house, his farm, and then she ultimately helps him. So I think that's probably what they used it for.
Um, I think you could maybe even tie it into feminism because like you see this man and he's like doing the exact same things that she's doing, but he's still more successful. But she was like a successful photographer at the time and she has like a lot of talent. You see her photos later on in life, but she still failed at life, I guess you could say, because of her addiction. And like, why does that happen? I guess I'm just trying to make a connection right now. Anyone, feel free to jump in.
I really don't understand why they had it back to back in the beginning. Like usually when that happens, I thought it was going to be two completely different storylines that like may come together, like crossover once or twice, but or like at least they would both be the main characters, but it really wasn't. It was just seemed like that for the first 15 minutes, I think. I really don't understand that. I'm trying to think of a connection of like or a reason why they would do that, but other than just to understand what she's been through, I can't think of anything.
I think maybe be like going back to that metaphor for star image, like the spotlight was never on Nicole, it was on uh, you know, Denzel Washington's character the whole time. So like, and Nicole was able to recover pretty much from what we see. Like she's doing a lot better towards the end. Um, so it could be just kind of like that comparison where like there's a lot less pressure on her just because there aren't like constant news crews out trying to find her and talk to her, and she's not dealing with all this legal stuff. So like without that pressure out of the way, she's able to better care for herself.
Yeah, this is interesting because the feminist thing is actually really smart because he was surrounded by so many like strong and important women. Like I didn't even really notice till now, but like the lady that he slept with in the beginning, like it was really interesting that like of course she's going to be a just like a sex image in the beginning, and you think you're only going to see her as that, until she ends up saving a kid, and then when the plane's crashing she saves like a boy's life, dies, and then in the very end she's the reason why he decides to come clean, because of guilt, of course, but like after all she did, he didn't want to say that like she was the one with the drinking problem. And it was interesting that like she had been to rehab before. That was kind of a cool part that they added when they were in the courtroom or whatever it was, the hearing, I think it was. He didn't even know that. So it kind of was like interesting that like he probably had slept with her and known her for years, and he didn't know that because he's like, you know, a crappy man, and he only cares about himself, and probably never really asked her very many questions about her life. So like her, the woman from SVU who like helped the plane, you know, not kill everybody. Um, the other one that died, the other, what are they called?
Flight
Airline.
attendant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The other flight attendant that died, like even his ex-wife was kind of like a big deal because she, you know, she took care of their son alone, because she kicked him out for being an alcoholic. So I think that's kind of like a cool point. And then of course Nicole, eventually forcing him and staying with him after he goes to jail, helping him like get through, I don't know, rehab.
Tying again the feminism thing into Nicole at the beginning of the film when they asked her to do porn so that she could like get the cocaine and I guess just fuel her addiction. It's just really interesting because like they're objectifying her body so that she can, I guess, you know, ruin her life with drugs and stuff, but it's seen as like okay, like when they're about to go into the courtroom with Denzel Washington, they give him the cocaine just because it'll like make him more himself, and that's okay. But it's like looked down upon when Nicole was going to do porn for it, and they're just like objectifying her body.
Yeah, I think one because someone brought up like how they brought up Trina's going to rehab. Like one interesting thing is something about like that interviewer's tone when she said like, "Are you aware Trina's been to rehab?" It was like framed as a negative thing almost. Just like it wasn't, because obviously like that would be relevant to the like what they're talking about, but like just the way that interviewer said it, it was like accusatory, I feel like, which is kind of reflective of like how society treats addicts, unfortunately, where it's like even her trying to go get help, that's viewed as like negative because it shows that she's addicted, I guess, which is, I don't know, it was just kind of crappy to hear it because like, yeah, like obviously like that had to be brought up, but it was just the way she said it was like a bad thing, which is another thing with star image. It's like even even getting help, which should be like a good thing, like that can be viewed negatively because it's like that's how people can find out you have a like an addiction.
Yeah, and it's like the idea of saving face for society. Like you don't want other people to know what skeletons are in your closet, I guess. And rehab, instead of seeing it as something that's brave, you're seeing it as something that's like supposed to be shameful because why do you have that issue in the first place, you know?
Back to what you said, Abby, about feminism and just about Trina and how basically, like in the beginning, she was just kind of this sex symbol. But really, when you said, completely forgot that Nicole, like, and Nicole and the whole porn thing. I completely forgot about that. But it makes so much sense because I feel like once Trina became not a live, relevant character, she became that sex symbol. Nicole became like, I mean, I feel like so many of the men in this film were hitting on her or just saw her for her body. And I think that it kind of shows exactly what you said about success and them dealing with substance abuse, and also like what drew her to kind of do all that. It was, I know it had a lot to do with her mother, but I feel like there was more to that because of this whole feminism thing.
And like Whip included, he only noticed her because he thought that she was beautiful, and he didn't actually see her as a person until after she left him. And so I think that's interesting.
I think maybe another point that could be made with like the whole like porn offer Nicole got was that's like another like that kind of is her rejecting having a star image also, because like it's not like a movie actor, but you know you get some recognition from being like a porn star. So like her rejecting that offer is just another like way that the movie's kind of showing that she doesn't have to deal with that star image, which ultimately helps her in recovering.
Um, Also, I thought it was interesting, like, now that we're talking about it, none of the men really were that helpful in getting him to, like, go to rehab. And, like, the only thing they wanted him to do was to win the trial and to, you know, get back to normal. Um, I mean, they told him they obviously noticed that he had a problem and, like, made that clear, but the they didn't really show any kind of compassion. They were kind of just like, well, you're an addict, but like, you know, if you're not going to get help with that, then let's just lie. And like, they were the ones who bought the cocaine so he can make it through. He allowed him to stay in, I was think Greenwood is his last name, but the guy with the mustache, his close friend, he like helped him and stay in his house instead of kicking him out when he, you know what I mean? Like, so I thought that was kind of interesting there. And his friend that sold him the cocaine constantly was also a guy. So, and he supported it, and he, praised him for it. And I also thought it was interesting because that actor that plays him, at least from the movies I've seen, usually he's like he plays a character that's serious, or somebody that, might be like high up in law or whatever it is. He just never would have played like a stoner. I don't know, at least I've never seen him play a stoner or like somebody with a long ponytail. I thought that was like really, really funny, especially for him to play. So maybe that's also why they chose him, because it was like a completely opposite role than he usually does. But yeah, I guess.
What did everyone, like, now that you bring it up, what did everyone think about the whole lying thing? Because I feel like it only really became uh, a noticeable theme at the very end.
I think it's just
I guess. Oh, sorry, Alex.
you can
Um,
you can
okay, I was just gonna say it sort of ties back to saving face for like society and putting on like a show, I guess you could say, like a mask, um, of what you aren't, but what you want to like show society, like who you are, I guess. So it's like star image, and so yeah. And then as it progressed more and more, the characters realized that they can't keep on doing that because it's really like it's not a good thing to do, I guess, and it's not an easy thing to do.
yeah, it's basically what I was gonna say. It's just that the like whole lying thing, it's like just kind of a metaphor or something to like show like that it's hard to keep a good public image, but that like that's kind of the main concern in Hollywood, is just that all the actors like are like portrayed as like good people, I guess. And like I think it's interesting how we noted that like all the male characters were not really helpful. And like I think also it's reflective of how in society we kind of know that like not everything's perfect behind the scenes. Like if some random actor or actress was like shown to have a cocaine addiction or something, I think for the most part we'd be like, yeah, like that just we're all vaguely aware that that's like happening behind the scenes. So that's kind of how like the men in the movie, they all like knew what was going on. But like just like how like society, we want to like see our actors and actresses as like just being good people, I guess. We kind of like let it keep happening as long as like that facade can be maintained.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like along with that, I think the lying was like really important and just showing like I agree it wasn't really a big deal until the end. And I think it kind of shows like that lying helped make everything look better. Like he still thought like it still made him look cool. He still like was doing drugs and getting away with it. And there was no like big problems yet until the very end when like all his guilt kind of came out on the stand and he saw the picture of the flight attendant in front of him and you kind of like it kind of just shows how lying in the very end really it never really helps. It's kind of gonna bite you in the ass anyway. And then maybe like if I don't know if you have anything to say about this, but the very end when he was in jail and it ended with his son writing his college essay about him, kind of like an offhanded like the I think it was the most interesting person I never met. I think it was what it was called. Um, making his dad like step back and be like, oh wow, yeah, kind of recognizing the kind of dad he was all these years, but still proceeding to, go along with it and write the essay. And yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, and that essay could tell you a lot about how like Whip put out he put on an act for other people to perceive, including his own family members, but the person he actually is inside, nobody really met except for when he went to jail, and that was like the only time he like fully realized like I guess not to put on that star image act.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, the whole movie, I mean, you were saying this earlier, Abby, but I felt it was so emotional. Like, and like you said, Alex, I had to stop it so many times just to collect myself. It was just so hard, especially during the plane crash scene and the end scene. It was just like the last line, "Who am I?" is so, it's like the perfect ending because it's not like, okay, a huge cliffhanger, but it just kind of just, and it doesn't just naturally end. It's sort of just kind of, I don't even know how to say it, but I feel like it does relate back to him as a person. I don't know. I always get the sense of people, like, just, I think this is what we all do subconsciously. We look at a person, see kind of how they talk, how they hold themselves, and we sort of make a judgment about who they are as a person, like if they're arrogant, if they're shy, if they're confident, if they have positivity or negativity running through their veins. I just feel like Denzel Washington, like, almost was this character, this person who who's tough and who is so obsessed with image and pride, but has so many demons that he just refuses to accept. He kept saying, I choose to drink. I can stop whenever I want. And that was that was when like the lying thing came back. And I just like realized that now, but it was a lie not just to everybody else, but it was a lie to himself. I think that was big.
I think two kind of less pertinent points I have about Star Image, they don't get like that deep in the movie, is that Whip obviously has like a very unique name, so like it should be easy to remember. But like me included, we've forgotten it a couple times. But just saying Denzel Washington's character like works as recognition, which obviously he's like the biggest or one of the biggest actors in the movie, so like we all get it. But like it's just kind of interesting with Star Image how we're thinking of the character he's playing, but like our knowledge of that actor still kind of supersedes that. And then also like maybe this is just me, just because I've been really into the MCU. But the second I see Don Cheadle like wherever, I just instantly think, oh, like War Machine. Like obviously he's like a famous actor outside of that, and like he's done a lot of big movies, but like I just can't see Don Cheadle now and not think War Machine. which is kind of like the downside of having like really famous roles like that.
Can anyone picture any other actor playing Whip?
Yeah, I agree. Maybe the one with the mustache that played his friend, I feel like I've seen him in so many different things. Maybe his range would be big enough and like he could pull that off. But I thought like what made it so good is like Denzel plays usually heroes. And I think that really like kind of made his character the way it was. Yeah, I think he was definitely the best choice for it though.
When you ask that question,
Sorry, go ahead.
when you asked that question about someone else playing Whip, though, the like first name that popped in my head was like George Clooney. I feel like he could maybe also pull off that kind of a character pretty well.
I guess I also sort of pictured Samuel L. Jackson, because I think he plays sort of similar roles as Denzel Washington. So like I could see him playing Whip, but also like not, because Denzel Washington just did such a good job.
Yeah, I feel like just like when you said those names, picturing them as Whip, it would completely change the character. Like it would completely change it. Like George Clooney, I don't know, it would be a different person. Same story, same background, yet a completely different person. I don't know why. It's just it wouldn't be the same. It would almost change the meaning of the story too, I think.
I think if it was George Clooney or something like that, people would turn it into like a Wolf of Wall Street situation where people like praise Leonardo DiCaprio for being like so suave and like cool, like a cool guy, even though he's like, you know, addicted to drugs and alcohol and women and whatever. People, I think that Whip would be like that sort of a character if he was played by George Clooney, whereas Denzel Washington adds like sort of a human aspect to the character and like you realize his flaws. And George Clooney is just too cool.
If we don't have any other big topics we want to talk about, I'm pretty sure we're good on time. Yeah, I don't know, unless you guys have anything else to say.
Well, is this our final meeting?
I don't know, is it?
I
think so.
I'm pretty
I
sure
think
we
it
have
is.
another one next week.
I think so
For our-
too.
Oh, we do have another one next week?
I think we might.
Because
I'm
I
very
was
lost
looking
with
at
all this.
Google, and there was like a week 15 or something like that.
Right, that's right. Okay, gotcha.
All right, cool. So in that case, goodbye to the one or two people who watch this, and have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.